We're Man United and we're never gonna stop. Ole, 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 ola. Ole, 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 ola. Hello, welcome to the stream today. Again, we're going to be talking all things Premier League on today's show, diving into the big game in the League Cup final as well. Welcome. It's going to be a good day today. It was a great day yesterday evening. As you can see, I am absolutely flying following Manchester United's 2-1 win over Barcelona. The first time they've beaten Barca since 2008. That season, Manchester United went on to win the double, including the League and the European Cup. Could be the treble this year. It could be the treble. Welcome, everyone, today. Do get into the chat. Do give me your thoughts about the game, your thoughts about the future, your thoughts about the scores and all that good stuff. Today, we're going to be talking tactics. We're going to be talking draws. The Europa League draw was done today. We found out who Arsenal will face in the round of 16 as well. We'll have a little bit of a dive into that. Then we're going to be talking Leicester City versus Arsenal and rounding things off with Manchester United's massive game against Newcastle at Wembley. Any other games you want me to have a look at, to discuss, do get into the chat. Hydri in the chat. We've seen it all. We've won the lot. Excellent stuff. Short story. Don't annoy Ten Hag from Ted. Lovely, lovely, jubbly. Well, what a day yesterday was. What an event. But we've got to be talking about the Premier League as well. The Premier League is in a fine point today. Arsenal sit top of the league. Manchester City 2 points behind, but Arsenal have got a game in hand. And there is Manchester United sitting just 4 points behind City. If you'd asked me at the start of the season if I'd take that after 24 games, I would have absolutely bitten your hand off. But there are other good races in the Premier League, of course. Tottenham's, goal to beat the likes of Newcastle, Liverpool and Chelsea getting into the top four. And also relegation is in a very, very interesting position. Bournemouth just sitting outside the relegation zone with Sean Dyche's Everton. And then you've got West Ham and Leeds and Southampton who make up the bottom three. Loads of football to go. Again, we had the Champions League this week as well. We had a really good, number of games. Enjoyed the Liverpool game against Real Madrid, not because it was Liverpool that lost, but because it was a really good game of football. Some really high quality, plays in there from the likes of Luka Modric, Vinicius Jr., Karim Benzema and all that good stuff. But we probably should start where we mean to go on. That, of course, is Manchester United and their recent form. And really what this video is about, Erik ten Hag defining a new era at Manchester United. It's taken a long time to get to this point, but quite frankly, United are on the up. They're playing some of the best football they've played in recent years. And you look at the recent run after the World Cup, just one defeat to Arsenal and a very good Arsenal team as well. And that took Arsenal to the 90th minute to get that winner. Really good game of football that was as well. But Man United in scintillating form, loads of wins in that run. And of course, rounding off with a 2-1 win against Barcelona yesterday. Do get into the chat, guys. All your opinions on Manchester United. Do you think there's more to come from Erik ten Hag's Manchester United and so forth? Right. Shall we dive into the game? The game in the Europa League Championship of the world. Fantastic match between two great European sides. Barcelona, obviously, pulled a number of financial levers over the last transfer window, but unfortunately, still not quite good enough. I think their squad is very, very strange in a sense of, the likes of Jules Koundé, Christensen, two players making a back four that was pretty poor and got caught out by pace throughout the two ties against Manchester United. In fact, Barcelona have lost more games in Europe this season than they have in their previous 51 appearances in Europe combined. They are in a little bit of a bad run in that competition. But so many players to mention for Manchester United. But I think first and foremost, Erik ten Hag is the reason why Manchester United are back as a football club. The way that he's built the team out, but more importantly, the impact that he's made off the bench. When you're looking at Erik ten Hag, in terms of the goals that have come off the bench, more goals than any other team in Europe's top 5 leagues this season off the bench for Manchester United. And we saw that again with the impact of his substitutions. Manchester United started in a pretty aggressive manner. Weghorst through the middle, Jadon Sancho as a number 10, Marcus Rashford left, Bruno Fernandes right. I thought it was a good approach. I really enjoy what Jadon Sancho did, off the bench in the Premier League against Leicester City. He made a humongous impact in there. The way that he found space, he received, the combination playing between the lines for his goal. Absolutely superb. And I probably would have given Jadon Sancho a start in that same position to see if he can make that similar impact against Barcelona. Obviously, Barcelona is a different beast than Leicester City, and Jadon Sancho struggled a little bit at number 10, but Manchester United as a whole struggled. There was a lack of threat in behind, with having Wout Weghorst as the 9. You know, Weghorst is a sort of a deep line forward. He's going to receive to feet. He's going to try and link with his teammates and get on the ball, which is a completely different option to Marcus Rashford. And one of the big things that you kind of knew from that first leg against Barcelona is they're going to be super aggressive and play with a pretty high line. And that's something that United didn't really attack in that first half. And it caused a number of problems for Manchester United in the sense of there was no real threat. There was no real way of kind of worrying that Barcelona press versus that first leg where we saw time and time again Man United hitting those, balls over the top, in behind the defence. And I think from a tactical perspective, it was, probably a slight mistake from Erik ten Hag from the start. The way that Barcelona squeeze in that mid-third, they basically completely shut down. They basically squeeze so high that there is this massive amount of space in behind the back line. And this is something that United didn't really penetrate. We didn't see enough from Marcus Rashford running in behind. We saw Bruno get in behind twice, missed that big opportunity after some very, very good work in central midfield from Casemiro. How good Casemiro is every time it surprises me. That block yesterday in the first half was so important for Manchester United. Brilliant world-class defensive midfield play. But the way he won the ball back in midfield early doors and then set Bruno free in behind the defence. Of course, Bruno fired across the keeper, probably should have gone near post to open up the scoring. But that quality in midfield is something that Manchester United are going to have for a number of years now. It's absolutely fantastic. But going back to that first point, there was no real threat from either Weghorst or Jadon Sancho into the channels. And that's a kind of big thing with Barcelona, is you can really catch them out with balls in behind the defence. We saw that with the ball to Bruno Fernandes, but United didn't have that threat in the first half. Of course, Erik ten Hag spots these things. Erik ten Hag knows exactly what he's doing on a football pitch. He changed the threat, moved Marcus Rashford inside, put Bruno back to number 10, and put Jadon Sancho to that left wing, and popped Antony onto the right. That massively changed the outcome of the game for a number of reasons. First and foremost, we got the threat of Marcus Rashford back through the middle. You could see Barcelona's defence instantly start to think, we're going to get spun in behind. We've got problems in behind us now, versus the first half where they could potentially squeeze higher because it was Weghorst. But you also had the threat of Antony. I think Antony deserves a lot of credit for being decisive in the opening, parts of that second half. It started to cause Barcelona real issues from a defensive perspective. They no longer could squeeze and deal with the balls, but it was more, they had that threat in behind. They had to worry about those types of moments, but also the United press got better. The intensity was fantastic, and it was very, very good. Welcome everyone to the chat. Just seeing a load of people jump into the chat. The likes of C06, Sandham in here, Radu, welcome back as well. Ian's in the chat. Next 10, Liam is knocking around as well. Liam, Bruno's attempt from the right was almost a carbon copy of Rashford's goal against Leicester City. Save it. And it didn't go in. Yeah, again, I think that near post finish there is kind of what you need in that position. But I think from the moment of United introducing the substitutes, Erik ten Hag making the changes, the game change, or the little combination play with, after winning the ball back on that left-hand side with Bruno, and then, free and Fred up in that sort of central position for the goal was absolutely sensational. Top quality play. And of course, then Man United went to their bench again. You bring in the likes of Alejandro Garnacho off the bench. The threat that he had was absolutely fantastic. And I think it's one of those situations where United have got real quality now off the bench. And it's something that United haven't really had for years. You're thinking that City have always got like Mahrez, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, Foden, back to Leroy Sané, Sterling. They've got loads of wingers that can sort of solve different problems. United haven't had that. It's been like Marcus Rashford wide, And if he can't do it, there isn't anyone to come on and replace him. Or if the number 9 can't do it, there's no one to come on and replace him. But now United's squad is starting to look quite good. The youth of Anthony, the youth of Garnacho in those areas is fantastic. But big credit to Luke Shaw, and that chase, winning the ball back, the back heel. To Bruno Fernandes to link with Garnacho, number of shots going in, and then Anthony arriving at the back stick to score another big goal. Anthony now has scored against Manchester City, Arsenal and Barcelona this season. The lad has potential, as I said many, many times. Give the guy time to develop, give the guy time to adjust, and he'll be absolutely fantastic. I thought it was one of his best performances, and it had that duality, as I mentioned before, stretching Barcelona in behind the defence, which we've not seen Manchester United do much from that right-hand side. I know that Anthony's got that quality, but we've not seen him do it. So I like that we're seeing a bit more, threat in behind the defence and, a real threat in behind the opposition's backline from Anthony. But it was a brilliant team performance from Manchester United. Barcelona could not cope with the pressing in midfield. The amount of times that we saw Barcelona in this game, receiving at centre-back and simply being hounded all over the pitch was brilliant. I love the role of, again, Fred on Frankie de Jong. I thought Frankie had a very, very good first half in the match, but I thought Fred came out in the second half and slightly changed his approach, was really aggressive on de Jong. Because in the first half, his stats were fantastic in the game. Won 100% of his aerial duels, completed around 91% of his passes, completed 3 out of 3 of his dribbles in the game. But the second half, it changed. Obviously, you can see his pass accuracy finishing off at 80%. Fred's pressure was so much better on de Jong in that second half, was a little bit tighter to him, was a little bit more energetic on him, and gave him the ball at times and then engaged the press. And I thought he did that really well in the first half, and it was something that we saw in the second half, a lot more. But United, absolutely fantastic all over the pitch. And I mentioned Casemiro and his experience and that massive challenge in the box, and also linking with Bruno Fernandes. We spoke about Fred's harrying. Fred made 13 tackles in this game, winning 5 of them, but over the course of the tie, he made 12 tackles against Barcelona, or won 12 tackles, should I say, against Barcelona, which again was 7 more than any other player in the tie made. And I think, he deserves a lot of credit for his goal again, in the last 3 games, a goal and assist against Barcelona home and away, and a goal and an assist against Leicester City. The guy's in great form. The guy's absolutely flying. But it's interesting because we'll go and talk about the Newcastle game later on. Do I think Fred should start this weekend? You might not like to hear this, but no, I don't think Fred should start this weekend. I think it should be Marcel Sabitzer, which is a controversial thing to say considering the great man's form. But I think United need players that can play through the lines and can receive under pressure. And sometimes that's not Fred's game. So that's why I'd say maybe get Marcel Sabitzer in for the match. One last thing on this game before we move on to the Arsenal fixture. Lisandro Martinez. What a performance. What a performance up against Lewandowski. But as well, Raphael Varane's experience, his timing, his clearance off the line. These 2 centre-backs are the best pairing I've seen in a long, long time for Manchester United. And there's been sort of fake dawns with United centre-halves where we've seen, that pairing's going to be the one, this pairing's going to be the one. But the way that they marshal one of the greatest number 9s in world football is pretty incredible. When you take into consideration that Lewandowski's only shot in the game came from the penalty spot. You've got to give those 2 centre-backs massive credit. 0 chances created, only 1 shot, again from the penalty spot. 1-0 out of his 1 aerial duels. It was a brilliant performance from both Lisandro and Raphael Varane. Lisandro obviously a little bit more complete in his performance from a ball-playing perspective and dealing with Lewandowski. But I just thought Raphael Varane was a real Rolls-Royce against Barcelona. The way that he made the right decision, carried into midfield, was absolutely fantastic. But let's take a look at Lisandro Martinez's numbers. 4 out of his 5 tackles won, 4 clearances in the game, created a chance, completed 5 out of his 9 long balls in the game, won 7 out of his 10 duels, 70% duel win rate against Barcelona, against the likes of Rafinha, against the likes of Lewandowski. Absolutely superb. And Martinez is sublime. And, we knew Martinez was brilliant. We really did. But it's great to see him adapt and prove people wrong. And that period of adaptation I thought would be a little bit longer than it is. He's come in and he has been absolutely brilliant. Arguably United's player of the season. Let's jump back into the chat. Bob, hey Dave, do you think Total Football or will make a comeback in European football, as tactical ideas tend to come back in cycles? Total Football is kind of positional play, fluidity. It's kind of the pinnacle, and we will see that with Erik Ten Hag at Manchester United. Real Total Football. That's what I do believe. Greetings to Serbia as well from Nemanya's coming in. Matt K, that Portuguese guy. Yeah, Xavi really messed up there, didn't he? And Cass in the chat, smash that like button. Exactly. How many likes have we got, guys? How many likes have we got? But yeah, smash that like button. David Jones in the chat. Given how well Fred is doing, do you think there is much need to bring in Frankie de Jong? I don't think Frankie de Jong should be brought into Manchester United anymore. It would be amazing if he's brought, but if he doesn't want to come, he doesn't want to come. We shouldn't pursue players that don't want to join the club. He's had the opportunity to do that. Now he hasn't. And I tell you what, one of the best moments of the game was the housery from Bruno Fernandes booting the ball into his chest. And again, it was pretty dirty. It was a little bit filthy. But at the same time, this player turned down Manchester United. Man United players should take that as a personal insult to them, a lack of belief in them. And obviously Frankie enjoys his time in Barcelona. Barcelona is one of the greatest cities in the world. But Manchester United are really cooking right now. And I'd say United should be looking to a Caicedo. The potential he has is incredible. To a Declan Rice. I think United need to go out there and purchase a top quality number 8 that's Premier League ready, can instantly slot into the team. Caicedo is my favourite at the moment. Manu Kone is another one that I think would be fantastic under Erik Ten Hag. And again, it's kind of like, do you want to buy someone that doesn't want to play for your football club? Probably not. So, move on. United, I think also there's other positions they need to strengthen. Of course, the number 9 area is a big one. United with a number 9 would be pretty scary. And one of the players that, I watched the right game in the Champions League midweek, and whether you guys agree with this, I ignored the 5-2. I was sat at home, as you do, watching Eintracht Frankfurt versus Napoli. And why, you ask, Dave? Napoli are one of the best footballing teams in the world right now. They are a joy to watch. They are so fun. The way that they play, the football, it's fantastic. Kim Min-jae, you're looking at Lobotka, Di Lorenzo, Anangisa, Zielinski, Kvaratskhelia, Osimhen, Lozano. Honestly, these guys play some great stuff. I'd really recommend watching the second leg of that. But also I watched it from perspective of, talking number 9s, Man United number 9s. Randall Muani's been someone that's been linked with Manchester United in recent weeks. I am a big fan. I am a really big fan of Muani. I think he's got so much quality. And when he plays it as a 9, it does remind me a little bit of a Thierry Henry-esque player. A player that's super skillful, that likes drifting into the wide areas. And the interesting one is you have to sign a player that complements Marcus Rashford. I think you have to. Muani would complement Marcus Rashford a little bit more than Victor Osimhen. I think Victor Osimhen would be brilliant. And I've got history of this guy. I said United should have bought him from Lille when he's had his first goal scoring season over there. At Napoli, he has been so good. He's a proper 9. And it gives United something different, having someone like an Osimhen in the team, and I think he's the better player out of the two. And if you're looking for right now, need to get a player to win the league, you go with Victor Osimhen 100% of the time. But I like the potential of Muani. And that's not to say that United don't buy both. That's something that they could do. Muani could play wide left, wide right, attacking midfield, centre midfield, striker. He has got the quality to play all those positions. So why not bring him in? Why not bring in Victor Osimhen and have 2 number 9s? Do you know what I mean? Why not? United need 2 players in each position if they want to win the Champions League and the league. So signing both of them shouldn't be an issue. And that's definitely a situation. Ewan in the chat, whistle hasn't gone, should have been booked. Yeah, the Muani red card was a bit weird, to be quite honest. It was a little bit odd. It was a red card. It was a silly challenge, but it didn't feel like it was malicious. The whistle had gone, he overstretched, and he caught him in a pretty horrible position by accident. A little bit out of control, but there was no maliciousness in it. The big thing with Muani as well, you can see that he's drifting on his heat map, where he gets on the ball, where he receives, where he looks to carry, and I really like that about him. I like that play, moving out of the way so, Marcus can play through the middle could be a really good option in there. Of course, we can't talk about Napoli without talking about Kvaratskhelia. If you've not seen his assist, go and watch his assist. It is absolutely ridiculous. Arangisa, little clip ball into the box. The first touch is almost like a roulette. He's like spins on the ball, then backheels it to Di Lorenzo at the edge of the area, who side foots it in. It is simply brilliant. And Napoli are the team to watch. Napoli are my favourites for the Champions League this season. Favourites. Not underdogs. They are my favourites. They are absolutely brilliant. The blend their team has got is so good. Without talking about Kim Min-jae, who's, again, United should be straight on this guy. This guy is a world-class defender. He is absolutely brilliant. 7 clearances, won 5 out of his 5 tackles, 1 interception, had 148 touches of the ball, completed 125 passes, 2 out of 2 of his dribbles. This guy is brilliant. Like, Martinez and Kim Min-jae at centre-half would be a Champions League winning pairing. And that's bad because Raphael Varane was so good. And I don't want to say, talk him about that way. But going back to where Man United need to be, 4 world-class or 4 top-quality centre-backs in there. Kim Min-jae could probably do a job at left-back as well, could probably play right-back. I just think in terms of signings in the summer, Kim Min-jae, Osimhen, Muani would be the 3 at the start, then getting Caicedo, United win the Premier League. Lovely, lovely stuff. Mo in the chat. Sup, Dave, what about Harry Kane? I think Harry Kane would be a great sign. I think he'd suit Erik Ten Hag's system down to an absolute T, and I think he'd score 30, 35 goals in the Premier League for Erik Ten Hag's side. Is it a move for the long term? No. Would I sign someone for the long term, like a Osimhen, Muani? Yes. Because if you're spending that much on a centre forward, you need them to be there more than 3 years, right? And Osimhen's, sitting at 24 years old? Muani is sitting at 24 as well. There's 2 players that could play for another 5, 6, 7, 8 years with humongous potential in there. But yeah, Kane, I wouldn't be afraid of a Kane striker, for sure. I wouldn't be afraid of that. In there, Alex in the chat, Muani or Thuram for free. I like Thuram. I don't know whether we need his profile of player. I prefer a Muani, I prefer a Osimhen to him. But for free, why not? Build that squad up. Radu in the chat, Mbappe and Bellingham. Yeah, could be coming. Also, we got here from you guys saying, a release clause for Kim kicks in July. We need to go get him. Absolutely, Alex. Aiden, who'd be your replacements for Maguire or backup or comp for Rafa? Again, Kim Min-jae. I'd have Kim Min-jae. Again, if I'm building my ultimate team right now of what United could realistically go out and recruit, Kim Min-jae, Raphael Varane, Lisandro Martinez, and Gvardiol. There'd be 4 centre-backs, that would provide that quality. You got 2 left-footers, Gvardiol and Lisandro Martinez. You got 2 right-footers, Kim Min-jae and Raphael Varane in there. That's it. You've solved the problem. You really do. Jude Bellingham and Caicedo. I'd say Matt, definitely Jude is number 1, but Caicedo would be number 2. Radu, it's not winning the league next season. It's called defending our title. Wait, mate, you got to. Well, I love the optimism in the chat. Love it. Right. Any more United questions? Do get them coming in. Manchester United became the first English team to win a European knockout game this season. After Spurs lost to Milan, Chelsea lost to Dortmund, Liverpool lost to Madrid, and Leipzig drew with Manchester City. Erik Ten Hag has been at Manchester United for just 7 months. He's already beaten the likes of Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Mikel Arteta, Antonio Conte, and Xavi. What a guy. United, the only team in Europe's top 5 leagues that are still on with a quadruple, and it is a work in progress, which is really, really nice. Matt, how was Sancho yesterday? I thought Sancho had a quiet game. There is, a lot of room for Sancho to grow, and I think he will grow. I really do. But it's kind of, the Leicester City performance, absolutely sensational for 45 minutes. The consistency is what Jadon Sancho needs to work on next in the Premier League. I loved some of his passes yesterday. Played some really intelligent passes, in between fullbacks, in between the lines, but wasn't involved in the game enough. And that's to do with the receiving. It's also to do with United struggling a little bit to play out against Barcelona. So I think,
him being a number 10 long term is where I think he should play. But again, it's the development, isn't it? It's going to take a bit of time. Matt, I think Garnacho's peak is higher than Sancho's. That's a really interesting take. I think Garnacho is absolutely superb. Talking about players that, stepped up off the bench. He's been the one this season that's made major impacts. I thought he was very, very good when he came off the bench as well. Made a really good impact. Only Aaron Wan-Bissaka completed more dribbles than Alejandro Garnacho, and it's that threat. It's the trickery and so forth. So no, I think they have very similar ceilings. I'd argue that maybe Jadon Sancho is a little bit higher because Sancho's technical ability is probably like top 1% of players in Europe. It's just getting that application now, which will come with time. But Garnacho obviously is kind of more of a winger, which I think why Jadon Sancho is going to be played as a number 10, because that's how you could get both of those players in the team and Marcus Rashford. So nice. Thoughts on Antony? I've mentioned before, Antony is a player that has massive potential, just needs time. Thought it was one of his best performances against Barcelona. The running in behind is a thing that I think he needs to develop more. I also think that right foot going on the outside, or even going on the outside and coming back onto his left foot, needs to be added to his game. I don't like the criticism of he doesn't use his right foot, It's more about what he does. Instead of always coming inside, go on the outside. And you can do that with your left foot. You carry on your left foot, then you can hit it with the outside of your left foot to cross it. That's absolutely fine. But I think he needs that triple threat. Spinning in behind, receiving to feet cutting inside, receiving to feet going on the outside, receiving in behind and going on the outside. So it's still work in progress, but this guy's 23 years old. The interesting thing with Marcus Rashford is that we did a video about Marcus Rashford, I think 2 or 3 years ago, being like, this kid has all the potential in the world. He just needs time to continue his development. That was in the 2019-20 season. The raw parts of his game was there. Needed development. His shot map, really interesting, very left-sided. His shot map this season is just complete, every part of the penalty area. But it takes time to develop. Antony's 23. Marcus Rashford is just turned 25. And that's the thing. You've got to give these guys time. Salah, Mane, Firmino, they start peaking at 27. 26, 27. These guys are not even anywhere close to their peak, and that's the exciting side about it, that they really have that level of growth. And I think that's something that Antony and Rashford, they both can still grow as footballers. There's still parts of both of their game that needs to be ironed out. But the potential with Antony is absolutely there. And if you don't see that, just try and maybe watch him a little bit more without your bias of what you've heard other people say. If that makes sense. Football is, a very biased sport. It's a very emotive sport. Sometimes viewing people with a fresh set of eyes in your own mind is how you look at people. There's players that I've found recently that are really weird to analyse. Cody Gakpo is a prime example of that. Cody Gakpo is a very, very weird player. But when you look at him when he plays as a 9 and you look at his skill set, makes more sense than when he plays out wide. There's loads of different ways to kind of look at players and build profiles in your mind about how they react in certain situations. So it's you have to be able to reset yourself and be like, okay, right, fresh set of eyes. Let's look at this again. Wout Weghorst is a prime example. Wout Weghorst is a destructive number 10 or a pressing forward. Very, very good. He's not going to score you 50 goals a season, but he's going to put in the work. And that's what United need right now. So he's kind of trying to give fresh eyes. And I think Antony's someone that we need to have fresh eyes on because people are forgetting the quality that he's shown. Champions League, one of the best players this season we bought him. Do you know what I mean? The season just before we bought him, one of the best players in the Champions League. That's a level. That's quality. Ajax should have gone further. They dropped out. Andre Onana bottled a corner and they dropped out the competition. They should have gone to the semis that season. And Antony was at the fulcrum of that quality in the group stages. The only team ever in Holland that's won 6 out of 6 Champions League games. Antony was a humongous part of that. Champions League. Dortmund, done with. So it's time. It's absolutely time. Matt, would you sign Weghorst as a backup? Matt, as I mentioned before, I would go Muani, Osimhen, buy both those two players. Compete for one shirt. Probably wouldn't sign Weghorst as a backup right now. But at the same time, I think he's he's done a great job. So that I wouldn't be against it, but I'd have a different plan, I think. I'd go down a different pathway. But I do love Wout Weghorst. He's one of my favourite players, to be honest. I love his work rate and so forth. But yeah, we'll jump back into Man United a little bit later on. We've got to talk about the big game this weekend. We've got to chat about Newcastle, Manchester United in the EFL Cup final. That's going to be a good one. We've got some analysis that I did for the game against Liverpool before, obviously, the red card. There was some real good moments from Liverpool, how they played through, how they beat Newcastle's press. So make sure you stick around for that, because that's going to be a lovely little section. We also talk Newcastle, how they play, their strengths, how good they've been this season under Eddie Howe, and why they will be a threat against Manchester United. So we'll have a look at all that stuff very, very soon. But we obviously need to talk about the potential winners of the Premier League this season. Arsenal have been absolutely absurd this season, and they deserve all the credit they're getting, and they deserve to be top of the Premier League. They've been the best team in the Premier League this season. The resilience they showed last week against Aston Villa, which is a little bit of a mind blank there. Simply sublime. Simply superb. So let's take a look at that. Let's dive into a bit of Premier League chat. Any other questions on the Premier League? If your team's playing this weekend and we want some chat on it, do let me know. Come on, lungs. Don't let me down now. Man United about to be good again. Don't let me down now. Just going to jump in to see if there's any last little questions. Steve, as a stat man, how high level would you say Ten Hag game management and tactics are? Best in the world. We'll talk about Shaw a little bit later on, Matt. Saka new contract. Ooh, that is great news for Arsenal. That is real good news for Arsenal. Is that gone through? Let me just have a quick look at the news. Oh, yeah. Yesterday, 16 hours ago, the BBC reporting Bukayo Saka close to signing a new deal with the Gunners. And that is someone that they need to get locked down. One of my favourite players to watch. Quality off the ball, quality on the ball, triple threat. We talked about Anthony before about the triple threat. Saka's got that. Saka is a very, very complete player. And sitting at 21 years old, being directly involved in 17 goals in Europe. The same as Flo Balogun for Stade Reims, which is the most in Europe's top 5 leagues. They need to get this done quickly. But fresh talks started recently, and the reports are that he's set to sign a new deal coming out of the BBC. I think that's really good news for Arsenal, really good news for them, because he has been in absolutely flying form in recent weeks. Goals, assists, impacts in big games, assist versus Tottenham, goal against Manchester United, penalty against City, and then a goal against Aston Villa. The way that he completes the side, I think, as I mentioned many, many times, left-footed players are a real rarity in European football. And for Arsenal to have, one of the best in Bukayo Saka, really shows that their quality. We can see with the heat map how, important he is in the shape. The Arsenal shape is simply sublime. This is a lovely shape. Classic kind of, 4-2-3-1 that moves into a 4-1-4-1 or 3-2-5 in attack. Saka wide left is such a vital role within this team. And you've got to give, Arsenal and Arteta credit for the development of Saka, but he's really their key player. We speak about Odegaard now, how good Odegaard's been this season. You'd argue that Saka's probably been their Premier League player of the season so far. So a really interesting one there. 200 grand a week, 6-year deal. That's good. That's, again, good structure for Arsenal. 200 grand a week for a 21-year-old that literally is your best player is fine. I think that's really good for a wage structure and that type of idea. Works really well for me in terms of that. But I think he's been one of their players of the season. Along with the likes of Zinchenko, William Saliba, Martinelli, Odegaard, perfect deal for Arsenal. And I think last week was a really good story of Arsenal in terms of how they've got real resilience in the team. Going a goal down, grabbing one back, going 2-1 down, Zinchenko scoring, and then the absolute banger from Jorginho that Emi Martinez turned into his own goal. That takes real character as a team to continue to go, and it feels very Pep Guardiola-esque, and that's a big compliment for Mikel Arteta, that they're sticking in these games, they're winning them, and that's the big thing. They needed this, they really did, because the form of Arsenal, going into this game wasn't great. We got to a point where Arsenal were really clear. The City results obviously hit them, but before that, going into that defeat in the FA Cup, the defeat against Everton, the draw with Brentford, and the defeat against City, 3 without a win, pulled it in, being 2-1 down, shows a lot of character for Arsenal, and it's good for the for the Premier League title race for them. It really is. They needed something like that, where there's almost like there's a moment of self-belief, or a moment, as we, the title of this video being Erik ten Hag's, defining the Man United era. This is a real moment of belief for Arsenal Football Club to get there and to, kind of realise where they're at. To be like, yeah, we are good enough to win this league. We are good enough to, take the Premier League title for the first time in 19 years. So let's take a little bit more of a look at this game against Leicester City. Leicester City, one of the better teams in the league in the last few weeks since the World Cup break. They've had a good impact, and of course that's come a lot from James Maddison being back in the side. His impact for them has been simply sublime. In the 4 games that James Maddison was out with a knee injury, they went to lose all of those matches. But since coming back, Leicester have only lost 1 game, and they've scored 10 goals in that time. The way that they took Tottenham apart was absolutely fantastic. The best performance by a mile of the season. And obviously James Maddison, a key part of that, goal and assist, 2 chances created, 3 shots on goal, completed 3 of his 4 dribbles. And he's playing in as a number 10 role. I think we've seen Maddison excel as a wide right player, so a right winger in at the start of this season. But he's kind of back where he made his name at Norwich City. James Maddison was an attacking midfielder. That's where he scored all of his goals and assists in the Championship. And now being paired with Iheanacho, I think gives them really good balance in an attacking side where both of their forwards now are coming towards the ball. I think one of the issues for Leicester City is they struggle to play through the thirds, and it started to get really turgid and not fast. Not quick passes, not link play in there. And I think Iheanacho's been sublime at that. Again, a goal and assist against Tottenham, 4 shots, 3 out of 3 dribbles completed. And he provides something a lot better. You can see how involved he is deep on the pitch. Like, he's dropping off, he's receiving to feet. He's allowing Maddison to go ahead of him. He's allowing Harvey Barnes to play, high, but also wide. You can see the heat map from Barnes in the penalty area, but also wide left. And Tete, making moves from out to in, but also receiving. I think Tete was a great signing for Leicester City, left-footed attacker, gives them brilliant balance, and that's exactly what Matt's saying in the chat. Tete's been good as well, and I think the system just works better. You've kind of got 2 players that will make runs from out to in Tete and Harvey Barnes, and then you've got 2 kind of player that drops off the line and number 10. It just seems to click, the system right now. Obviously bringing in Harry Souttar has been big. Victor Christensen, who's impressed at left back, only 20 years old. Leicester basically needed to make some signings and back Brendan Rodgers again. We know Rodgers is a good coach, but he needed that squad to be turned over. And it's an interesting point that as well. You're looking at maybe like a Spurs under Poch, where he left because they weren't turning the squad over. And I think that message of saying the same thing over and over again to certain individuals just stops working. There's a real sort of flow of kind of how you need to communicate a message, and sometimes it is literally bringing new players in, be it from the academy, be it from abroad, be it from the Premier League. You look at the 3 out of the 4 back 4 are brand new. You look at it in Keenan Drewsbury Hall, youth player just coming to the team. Iheanacho's obviously been around for a bit, but Tete's coming new. You'd say Maddison and Barnes are probably the only players that have been there for quite a while. Castagne's reasonably new as well. So it's all about moving squads on at certain points, and I think Leicester City have found balance in January, shall we say. But moving to their last Premier League game against Manchester United in the build-up to the Arsenal game, United really struggled in the first half against Leicester City. They said that Leicester had some big chances. 2 brilliant saves from David De Gea kept them in the game. One thing Arsenal could utilise, I think Bruno Fernandes on the right-hand side was in fantastic creative form. 2 assists, 9 chances created. And that's exactly the space that I feel that Odegaard will pick up. And, we talk about chances created. Bruno 9 against Aston Villa. Odegaard 7 against Aston Villa at last weekend. You see that area, similar pocket of space, and I think that's going to be a big part of the game plan for Mikel Arteta in this match to see whether they can utilise those types of spaces. From a tactical perspective, kind of probably expect Martinelli to come back into the team. He was benched last week. Trossard came in. Of course, Martinelli scored off the bench, but I expect it to go back to the similar setup, probably still with Jorginho at the base of midfield. And I think the thing is kind of that inside channel position for Odegaard to create was similar to where Bruno Fernandes. There's quite a lot of areas where Bruno was crossing from this position, which is similar to something that Odegaard could do a lot more naturally. Again, Bruno Fernandes is very two-footed. Martinelli left-footed. That inverted cross to the back stick could be good. We know that Granit Xhaka likes to bust a gut to get to that back post. In terms of Leicester, let's have a look at their setup and their formation. I've actually selected Aston Villa when it is Leicester City. Massive change in their team. No longer do we see Vardy through the middle week in, week out. It is kind of more Iheanacho. Tete, very much a new signing in there. We'll have to bring him into the squad. Number 37. Love that numbering from Leicester City. Absolutely disgusting. Doesn't mean anything. So Tete comes in. Ndidi we've not seen for quite a while. Yuri Tielemans we've kind of not seen. James Justin is injured. See how much turnover there is of this squad. It's absolutely mad. You'd probably say, what? Wout Fass is the only one that's still in the team. Even Schmeichel's gone. So put Castagna in there. Drewsbury Hall into midfield. Potentially could be Yuri Tielemans back in there in the game. But it's going to be a game where Arsenal really need to kind of control things. This Leicester City team's very, very dangerous off the in the transition with the likes of Maddison playing off Iheanacho. Mentioned there the link and then the threat from out to in could be a real problem for Arsenal. They looked a little bit suspect defensively on the counter last week, especially that kind of first goal. There was no real pressure on the ball and simply, you had a channel ball that went to Ollie Watkins and he put the ball in the back of net. That is a concern for this match as well, because that's something that Iheanacho's got, that duality in his game where he will also spin in as much as he will receive defeat. So there's quite a lot of almost concerns in this match, and it will be about control. It will be about Arsenal dealing with a number of the threats and seeing how they can slowly work the ball and controlling the tempo of the match. So let's take a look at the tactical side of it and kind of have a little chat on that with how it all works. So I've got Leicester City in their kind of 4-4-2 shape is what it is. Maddison's playing more as a striker, you'd say, or a second striker than a more natural attacking midfielder. But it is kind of the transition is what caused Arsenal problem. Last weekend with the right back carrying out and then the ball kind of into the channel in there. So it's one of these things where Arsenal's counter press needs to be really, really good. And obviously this is a game of real high quality. Both teams that play great football. I would quite like to see Arsenal start Fabio Vieira in this match in central midfield. I think this match is more about Arsenal controlling. And I think Vieira gives Arsenal more control than Granit Xhaka gives Arsenal in the final third. And I feel like you've got to be better in the final third against a team like Leicester City because they've got that quality in the transition to really harm you. And I'm speaking a lot about Vieira. I really do think Vieira's, he's got to come in now. Granit Xhaka started 23 out of 23 Premier League games. You need to rotate the team. I think we've seen that in recent weeks with Trossard coming in and the impact of Trossard, and how it's given Martinelli some freshness. And we'll probably see the best out of Martinelli now coming back in. And I think that's definitely something that we need to see from from Arsenal and how them to, for them to kind of really continue and sort of kick up another gear, I'd say, from a creative sense and from a ability to break teams down. Optimists, I think Arsenal might drop form. Greetings to Sean as well. Saliba, I just forgot to put him in. Banged him in now. Matt, Pep Guardiola said the same. You could argue the reason why maybe drop off mental fatigue, the likes of Bernardo. Yes, City is a very, very weird one. Leicester seems to have a soft underbelly, Dave. United were having fun with last week with Sancho. Yeah, Sancho and Bruno Fernandes. I think that left-hand side is the area that Arsenal need to really combine, with Odegaard, Saka and White. Again, it's been Arsenal's most efficient side from a creative point, from a goal-scoring perspective as well. So I think it's kind of getting that balance right. It probably will be Granit Xhaka from the start, as much as I like Fabio Vieira. I expect Granit Xhaka to start in this game, but it has to be high octane. Again, the control is the most important thing. Leicester are very, very good in the transition under Brendan Rodgers. They always have been, in terms of their work and, winning the ball back and breaking. And now with the added pace, we knew that Barnes is a threat in behind, but now the added pace of Tete as well to get behind could be good. Tete's a player that I've watched a little bit for Lyon and Shakhtar Donetsk. He's a player that will run at you, that will take you on. And again, Zinchenko was fantastic on the ball against Villa, but at times they kind of targeted him, with Leon Bailey, with the movement of Ollie Watkins in there. So that's definitely somewhere where they need to switch on. Let's jump back into some more talking points for this match. James Maddison, of course, and Odegaard are the two key guys in midfield for both teams. They've got 14 goal involvements each. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Maddison starts this weekend. Let's have a little look on the injury list, see what is the reason for Maddison's injury. The hip is a concern long term for James Maddison, but let's see what is the problem. Knee is the issue this time. We'll have to see with Maddison. He's still nursing a knee injury. We need to assess him. He'll have a late fitness test. So that was Brendan Rodgers talking on the 23rd, which was 2 days ago. So will be a late fitness test for James Maddison. I think it'll be great news for Arsenal if he's not fit, because he's, as we mentioned in the stats before, 10 goals in the last 4 games that he's played. Leicester City have scored. So, having Tielemans in there and Drewsbury Hall higher, Arsenal should comfortably win the game. The one concern as well, I've got Jorginho as a kind of cover defender, as a player to stop counter-attacks. That's been a concern for me, and Thomas Partey needs to come back as soon as possible for Arsenal, because he just basically has everything that Jorginho has on the ball, but also defensively very, very good. Thomas Partey, there's question marks over Partey. This is what Arteta said today. He hasn't trained much, but looks like he could be available, so let's see how he trains today. Again, he'll have a late fitness test, and I think if Maddison's fit, and the way that he can carry and drive on the counter-attack, like Barnes, like Tete, like Iheanacho. The key selection is getting Thomas Partey into the Arsenal team. I think that's going to be vitally important to face them, to stop the break, to stop the counter. Barnes likes to carry as well. They've got basically 4 forwards that all are very comfortable when receiving defeat, very comfortable at driving through. So I think Thomas Partey is a vital part of this Arsenal team. But guys, that's all been the kind of my thoughts on this game. Arsenal need to return to form and to push on, but they're playing one of the form Premier League teams. Leicester City showed against Manchester United, especially in that first half, the quality, but United showed in the second half, the likes of Jadon Sancho in between the lines could be a way to get at this team, hence why I think Fabio Vieira and Odegaard should start to have that duality in between the lines from the start and the control. Guys, get your score predictions in right now for this game. Matt Kay, Thomas Partey is back. Yeah, it does look like he'll be back. Leicester should win from Optimus. Man City being banned is a tremendous advantage to United and Newcastle, to be honest. Robert, I like the Foxes. Going to put a 5 on them. Very nice. Matt, I'd like to see Trossard play false 9. He played really well there for Brighton. Could offer what Jesus has done. Nelly, Saka. I quite like that for this game as well, to be honest. That's a really good suggestion. So, I'm kind of getting as many ball players in the team as possible. But having Trossard as a 9, and, then you've got that 3v2 in the central part of the pitch. So that works out quite nicely. you've got that battle there in that central area, but also you've got the battle deep where you'd expect Iheanacho and Maddison to sit goal side of Partey and Zinchenko, which means you've got that ability for one of those players to basically create the overload in a sense of, Trossard dropping off to create the overload in the attacking areas, or an Odegaard dropping off to create a 3v2 in that area. That's kind of, I think, where the game will be won and lost, as the classic cliche is said, is those central areas. Who controls the central areas? Because I think both teams are obviously dominant in those wide areas, but it's 2v2 for 2v2. I think Trossard's a great shout, Matt. Well played. GG's in the chat to Matt. Score predictions coming in. Tjas is going to go 3-0 to Arsenal. Stephen, so I'm going to say Arsenal losing 2-0. Johnny 5 alive in the chat. Good to see you, my friend. 2-0 Arsenal. Which team do you support? I support Manchester United, my friend. You can see I've got the 2008 Manchester United team behind me. But look, I love football, and I really respect Arsenal. They're a classic Premier League side. I love what Mikel Arteta's doing. I like the football that they play. So yeah, I do. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Arsenal in terms of how they play football. And yes, Ricky, I do play FPL. I have made some changes this week. My FPL team is moving on. Salah and Darwin Nunez have come into my team for the double. And yes, we are going Captain Mohamed Salah for this week. Call me a madman. Liverpool just got thumped in the Champions League, but I do like the idea of the double for them. Nunez and Salah, they played really well against Newcastle. They played really well against Real Madrid. The rest of the team, so-so. But those two, great. We've spoken about the Barca game, Optimus. Go check it out at the start of the video. We've moved over to YouTube from Twitch, so you guys can watch the live replays as soon as the video is done. So just scroll back, go and check that out. But of course, you got to stick around for the big chat about Newcastle coming up very, very soon. In the chat, True Nemesis Prime would go Trossard instead of Xhaka. Martinelli left wing. So we're going Nketiah and saying Trossard into that position. Could work. I think he's suited to more of that 9 position or the wide position in there. I'd quite like to see Trossard left and Martinelli central. Xhaka in there or Fabio Vieira in there. Could work quite nicely. But yeah, let's... I've just done some tactical analysis by myself. Just saying that Martinelli is a striker, Xhaka, Trossard wide. I think Trossard suits the wide area or the 9 position versus a central midfield position. That's just my opinion on his kind of skill set in there. But I think Arsenal probably will go a little bit more default. That's what I expect to see come 3 o'clock. What do you think of Trossard in a false 9 role? Trossard in a false 9 role is very, very good off the line. So he's very good when he is receiving off the line. He struggles when players put pressure on his back when he's receiving off the line. So he's good in free space. He's not that good with pressure, but he's great in free space in a sense of ball into his feet, will get turned, or will drop a little layoff and go. Like his understanding of a possession model and game is superb. But it's kind of like looking at, the freedom of being in between the opposition shape is kind of where he looks. So if Leicester jump on him, that's where he struggles a little bit more to hold on to the ball for obvious reasons. But let's move back to the humongous game on Sunday, just after we stop at the Europa League for Arsenal news and for Manchester United news. The draw for the last 16 has been done. And if you missed it, we're going to recap it right now. Union Berlin are facing Union SG. Sevilla face Fenerbahce. Juventus Freiburg. Leverkusen are playing a team in Hungary. Then we've got Sporting Lisbon versus Arsenal. Manchester United versus Real Betis. Roma Sociedad. And of course, Shakhtar versus Feyenoord. So United are in the same draw, or the same side of the draw as Arsenal. So if Arsenal beat Betis, and Arsenal beat Sporting, it'll be Man United versus Arsenal in the quarterfinals of the Europa League. So that is pretty crazy. UEFA obviously don't want an English team in the final. They don't want to separate them on the draw side. They want to make them play each other. It is what it is. Life moves on. Let's move back to talking about Premier League teams and Newcastle United. Just get into the chat with your thoughts about the draw as well, guys. Steve, unpopular opinion, Trossard is average. No, Trossard's a good player, Steve. He's a good player. Not a great player, a good player. We've not talked about Sunday's game yet, but we're about to move on to that. Humongous game. First trophy in English football. Manchester United versus Newcastle United. Wembley, 26th of February. Is going to be a big one. Going to be a massive, massive game. Man United, of course, played on Thursday night. Newcastle haven't played following their 2-0 defeat to Liverpool at home. The big news that came out of that game, of course, Nick Pope's red card. Almost, a massive advantage for United. Nick Pope this season has been brilliant for Newcastle United. The way that he's played, the saves that he's made, keeping them in games such as this performance against Arsenal. 4 massive saves. The stats are very, very good underlying for Nick Pope, and he's performed very, very well. And it's not only his ability to save, but also his ability to play. One of the important things that Nick Pope's got is the ability to hit certain long areas. Newcastle do like that long ball from Nick Pope out of the back, up the pitch, and then counter press on the back of it. They are almost like German in a sense, Newcastle United, or more like Atletico Madrid. They like to play in your half. They like to squeeze you in your half, and it's something that Nick Pope gives them with his kicking. His kicking is very underrated. He's a very good possession player, but I don't think he's an excellent possession player. But his kicking is something that I think is very, very good. The long balls that he plays is fantastic, and on top of that, he saved Newcastle an extra 2.2 goals in the Premier League this season, which ranks him 6th. In the league for post-shot expected goals. But the stats in terms of his ability to hit his teammates are very, very impressive. And I think he'll be a humongous miss for Newcastle in this game. Fortunately, red carded in the match against Liverpool, which was an interesting match. Obviously, there was parts of the game where Newcastle completely opened up Liverpool with Alan Saint-Maximin on the left wing, up against Trent Alexander-Arnold. But there were some really good moments from Liverpool as well. I think one of the big things that we've got to look at this game is the rotation in midfield to open up the Newcastle midfield. But also take a look at maybe how Newcastle can get at Manchester United as well. It's one of these ties that really could go either way. The first 15 minutes are massively important. In a sense of, Newcastle, they start fast. And if they get a lead, it completely fits into their style. They're very, very happy at sitting deep and defending. They're very, very happy at giving you the ball. They're very happy at, allowing you to dictate the play, and then going to play in the transition, play on the counter-attack. They've got so much energy in their team, with the likes of their, usual kind of midfield. Joelinton in there, Guimaraes and Sean Longstaff, or Sean Longstaff, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Willock. There's a lot of energy, and it's very similar to the first real good Liverpool team. That's kind of how I look at this Newcastle side. From a tactical perspective, there's a lot of similarities between the two teams, and we're looking at it from a tactical level. So Newcastle very much sit 4-3-3. Or maybe a 4-5-1 is probably a better way to describe them, in a sense of, clean back four, lots of bodies in the middle of the park, and they look to they'll squeeze high, they'll go long, and then they'll play on that counter press moment. Their midfield 5 is properly aggressive in terms of pressing, and their defence also is aggressive to squeeze up the pitch. So they'll look to play long out the back, then they'll look to kind of win that second ball or win the first ball and then play through there. It's very much a flat 5. What Newcastle like to do in this mid-third, where they've got a lot of joy when squeezing you, is play super narrow. So they basically play super narrow and really block you out. So they block off the central space in this midfield zone. So it's kind of like they don't want you to play through the middle of them. so that they'll open up space in the wide areas for you to play down and play through, but they don't want you to play through their underbelly. They're a good pressing side. They've got good ability to squeeze, and defensively they're one of the best teams in the Premier League this season. When you're looking at expected goals against, they are one of the top sides. They're up there with Manchester City, with Arsenal this season. Since the World Cup, they're top. They're number one. So they're a brilliant team. They counter press well. They build well. They build with kind of a three at the back. Bruno, Longstaff, and then they basically create a front five. Almiron narrow, Trippier wide, Willock and Joelinton obviously interchange positions, and they can play. This is the big thing. They can play through you with Bruno Guimaraes and then him linking with teammates. As we mentioned before, they can go long into the channels for Wilson, or they can drop it into Wilson, or they can play to Trippier and him to go through. They're a really good footballing team. I think that's the biggest compliment I can give them. They're a really decent outfit when it comes to playing, when it comes to squeezing, and it comes to them progressing the football. Top team. Going to jump back into the chat. Do you see this approach from Newcastle against the top 6 teams? Yeah, Radu, it's very direct. It's very counter-pressing, even more counter-pressing. This is more their build-up shape when they're playing a weaker team where they need to overload the opposition's back four in those areas. Bruno Guimaraes sees a lot more of the ball. But against the stronger teams, it is very much counter-pressing. It's stopping you playing out from the back. When the ball's at your goalkeeper, you'll see the front three super narrow. You'll see Longstaff high, Willock high. You'll see the back four super high. They press really, really well from those situations. And that's one of their biggest strengths. They're a very good counter-pressing and pressing side. And they will allow you to play out, and then they'll start to engage you. Very well drilled, very well coached, very Liverpool-esque in a sense of the central midfielders will cover a lot of ground to get to the wide areas to put pressure on the football in Longstaff and Joe Willock. And that's a concern. Manchester United had some sloppy moments against Barcelona. The David De Gea, pass that was intercepted after some pretty sloppy play. And then, of course, Casemiro made that wonder challenge to stop very much a certain goal. That's where Newcastle could catch United. And that would be the concern for the opening part of the game. If United aren't up to it, they're not at speed, like we saw against Leicester City in the first half, there is a concern there for me. So United need to be very wary of this, playing out from the back. But there is ways that United can catch Newcastle in this moment. We saw in the Liverpool game how they played around it. And it's something that United really need to take, into this match. They really do. So let's take a bit of a look at how United could overload. One thing United could do is have a goalkeeper like ter Stegen in there. That's an easy solution. That's a solution that's simple. But unfortunately, Man United can't buy a goalkeeper from a team that's just been knocked out in the Europa League. But United need a goalkeeper like that long term. Because Alisson, as much as he had a bit of a stinker midweek against Real Madrid, brilliant ball-playing goalkeeper. And we can't disrespect him too much because he's got real quality on the ball compared to, in comparative sense to David De Gea. So let's take a quick look at what United need to do out of the back with Newcastle. I think one of the big things is kind of drawing them on. You want to draw the press on and then switch the football. Classic. I've said this many a times. It's how to beat pressing teams. Draw them on, coax them in, either play through or switch the point of attack. I think one of the big things United need to do is have deep positioning of their fullbacks. So the deep positioning of the fullbacks means that you've arguably got an open guy. You could do it on one side. You can make it asymmetrical, where you're drawing Newcastle into you. From this sense, let's say we're drawing it onto the right side of the team. Just put Rafael Varane in. Drawing the press over and then looking to hit the switch, either from Diogo Dalot out to Luke Shaw or going back through David De Gea and then De Gea hitting the switch. You basically want to be pulling their shape over, pulling their shape over to one side where it's all getting drawn in. Obviously, you've got support on the football. So you're basically narrowing their team up. And then either looking to kind of play back through to get to Shaw, or playing a long ball over the top. And I think the interesting one with this is I would potentially start Marcus Rashford as a 9 in this game. I'd potentially go Rashford as a 9, Weghorst 10 again, Bruno Fernandes wide left. Or alternatively, could go Bruno Fernandes 10 and then Sancho in. But I think what we've seen with Weghorst is he's got real good ability to work and to stop Bruno Guimaraes, I think, is a big thing United need to do. As well, it gives United that ability for Bruno to kind of drop in and overload. I think the other thing United definitely need to do is start Sabitzer. Marcel Sabitzer is much better on the football than Fred. Fred's energy was brilliant against Barcelona. Stopping the opposition, stopping Frankie de Jong, spot on, play Fred. But I think in a game where you need players to play and play through the lines and draw the press on, Sabitzer is 100% the guy. He really is. And I think the threat of Rashford through the middle with Weghorst as 10 means that you're keeping their defence very honest and open. And that's really where United can catch it. But also in the final third for Manchester United, the approach of Newcastle in the sort of middle third of it is to be super aggressive as well. And one of the things that Liverpool did really, really well was rotate their fullbacks and rotate their midfielders, basically pulling the Newcastle shape around. So have a little look at it from a tactical sense, and then we'll have a look at the actual pictures that we've got. So from a tactical sense and having a look at kind of what United need to do, it's very much rotating the ball around the triangles and then movement off. So movement off the ball, rotating it and then opening up space. Basically what you want to do, rotate the ball, work it round. You then want Casemiro to pull the midfielder with him, then open up that space for Diogo Dalot. Same thing with the other side, where you want that midfield triangle to rotate. You want Marcel Sabitzer to receive, to give the ball, to then move on the outside, allow Shaw to come on the inside because it opens up great space. Newcastle get funneled over, and there's the ability to hit the switch or hit the channel. And that's something United really need to do. You asked Dave, how do we do this? How do we do this? Let's just get it open right now. Can we see the tactical side of things? We can. Sensational. Double check. We can see the tactical cam. We can see the tactical cam. Right. So this is an example. 0-0. Newcastle United versus Liverpool in the Premier League. The rotation is very, very important for Manchester United from fullback and midfielder, because you can basically pull Newcastle with runners. And that's a key theme in this. It's pulling Newcastle United shape around the pitch with runners. So let's take a look at the first goal that Darwin Núñez scored. What we'll see here is we'll see some ball retention from centre half to right back, into the feet of a DM, out to Mohamed Salah, and then basically Fabinho will follow and it'll create space from Trent. So Trent's received, plays it inside to Fabinho. Fabinho plays wide to Salah, pulls Sean Longstaff out of position. At this point, it's opened up a lovely pocket of space for Trent Alexander-Arnold to jump into. So when we're looking at the pressing structure, of course, Newcastle's right central midfielder sitting on Liverpool's left central midfielder. Sean Longstaff, I believe that is following Fabinho. Joelinton is picking up Henderson. So you can see Liverpool have basically pulled the entire midfield, where usually there'd be someone sat in this area to put pressure on the football. Because of that rotation we've seen there, centre-back to full-back, full-back to DM, DM to winger, DM moving forward, creates that little pocket of space. United need to utilise this on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Could see top of shot as well. Robertson's positioning very, very important. So the far side wing-back needs to be creating the width. The winger needs to narrow. What this creates is a 2v1 on Kieran Trippier. Darwin Núñez's position inside the centre half and the fullback is perfect channel play. And of course, we've got Robertson top of the shot. Creates a 2v1 on Kieran Trippier for the switch. Again, Trippier tries to read the play, tries to squeeze out, thinks the switch is going to come from Trent. We've seen it over and over again. The switch from Trent to Robertson. Robertson is going to receive, so Trippier's starting to go. But Trent plays a different ball. Slots in Darwin Núñez. He takes a really interesting touch tries to control it, bounces off his chest, hits it on the half volley, goal time. And that's definitely a situation that United could exploit, against Newcastle United. It's a real way for them to utilise that. And as we mentioned just then, it's from the right-hand side. So Willock up against Casemiro. Weghorst with Bruno Guimaraes in there. And we've got Sabitzer that's sitting there. So Sabitzer kind of moving forward. Casemiro receiving, playing to Anthony, then moving wide. Pulling Joe Willock. Weghorst moving into a channel position. Anthony feeding Diogo Dalot. Bruno in a narrow position. Or Marcus Rashford if it's switched. And Rashford's playing from the left. And Luke Shaw on the overlap. And then we got that situation where it's a 2v1 on Kieran Trippier. Again, rotation from midfield, from out to inside. Create the place for the inverted fullback. Ball either then can go out wide to Luke Shaw or can drop it to Marcus Rashford. A way to manipulate and get behind Newcastle. That's the first little way, guys. What do you think of that little bit of analysis there? Sabitzer with those long passes, switching the flank, we better suit to the approach. Absolutely, Radu. United should have gone with Navas instead of Butland. Yeah, definitely. Johnny 5 Live at the end of the semis, I thought it would be a very even game, but now Newcastle out of form. Manchester United are massively in form. Absolutely, Johnny, but I think there's definitely ways to get the United. As I mentioned before, look, if you catch us playing out from the back early doors, game, set, match, Newcastle for me. I think the first goal is vitally important in this game. And I think if Newcastle, we know that they can create, create out wide right with Trippier. We know they can create out wide left with Joelinton or Willock's rotation. But it's that first goal. If Newcastle get it and they can sit off, Newcastle are absolutely laughing. And then the space in the possession shape comes where Almiron, Joelinton, or if Alan Maximin's playing and Joelinton's playing inside, the space behind the fullbacks is huge. And that would be a concern. Obviously, Diogo Dalot's ball playing fantastic. So Maximin is a weapon in the carrying on the dribble. It could be a way where we see Aaron Wan-Bissaka potentially playing this game. I wouldn't want it, but it could happen. So let's take a look at the second kind of situation. And this is all about the press. This game's going to be brilliant from a pressing perspective from Newcastle. So let's get back into that build-up shape and structure. Ball with David De Gea, Sabitzer and Casemiro midfield. Wilson to Maximum, Almiron, Joelinton, Longstaff pressurising midfield. Bruno Guimaraes picking up, let's say, Bruno Fernandes. Rashford wide right. Weghorst, Anthony, Dan Burn in there. So this is a game state where Newcastle could come out on top here. In a sense of passes into the feet of the midfielders and Newcastle sweeping in there. Alternatively, De Gea switching and Newcastle winning the ball from midfield. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Newcastle to squeeze Manchester United high. Of course, there's a way for Man United to play out through. Number one, like we saw Liverpool do, it's the midfielders winning their 1v1s on the dribble. Either Casemiro or Sabitzer carrying through that area, beating the pressure with a bit of quality and playing through. Alternatively, it's kind of playing from a ball playing perspective. If United, as they did against Barcelona, played out in some tricky situations, it's rotating the possession, it's drawing the press on, and then potentially looking for a switch out, be from a Rashford or a Bruno Fernandes, playing that pass. Could be how United escape. One of the things, obviously, with receiving to feet, it's very, very dangerous and a very sort of a tricky move. We saw Liverpool do it really well in the match against Newcastle United. Let's take a look at the second goal that Liverpool scored. Again, we mentioned the sort of the build structure of Man United. This is how Liverpool would build in the pressure. We've got Callum Wilson picking up Joe Gomez. Maximin sitting a little bit narrow on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Pressure from Almiron on Joel Matip. Fabinho's getting picked up by Joelinton. And I think that is Sean Longstaff picking up Basatic in midfield. And this is an interesting play because this could really go either way. Obviously, it goes in the benefit of Liverpool, but this is the risk and reward. The reward for Newcastle is winning the ball back in Manchester United's final third, counter-attacking and scoring a goal. The reward for United is basically playing through Newcastle's front five and getting out their back five, their DMNF's back four. Liverpool did it in a very man-to-man way, with Liverpool beating that 1v1 press. This is a difficult situation in a sense of, from a coaching perspective, the touch is the wrong way. The touch should be, protecting the ball with his right shoulder and then spinning on the left side, receiving left foot going forward. He takes a massive gamble, the Liverpool youngster, receiving on his right foot and going on the inside. What it means is there's a challenge that could come in from Longstaff there. Win the ball, you're lost. So Man United need to be very, very honest in terms of protecting the ball. Can't be taking these touches. It does create a goal for Liverpool, but tactically, technically, the wrong touch. Because if he loses that ball in that situation, Newcastle have got 5 players in a central area versus 3 Liverpool players. Transition, Newcastle score. Same thing could happen against Manchester United. But the benefit of taking that touch is come off. So quantify it as a good touch, but maybe coaching-wise the wrong way. You've taken 5 players out, which opens up a 7v5 for Liverpool. Something that Man United can do. If they can beat that first line of pressure with some smart thinking, with some interplay, with some good footballing intelligence and touches, they can create this 5v7 situation. From this point, runners, really, really important. The role of Jordan Henderson in this goal has begun under the radar and the importance. I think it's big. Not only that, but the movement of Cody Gakpo off the ball, also really important. Newcastle struggle with runners. I think that's something that I've seen a little bit. So getting Man United having energy in there. The midfielders need to play very much in a sense of Casemiro, Sabitzer, one of them holds, one of them goes. That fluidity is very, very important. So Liverpool get to the final third. We can see Newcastle's back 4, nice and narrow on the right side. I think Dan Burn could be a little bit more narrow in that sense, but of course, we've got to deal with Mohamed Salah, so I don't think it's too bad. The DM is coming in to pick up. As Gakpo receives, cuts inside. Start to see the movement of Henderson and why it causes Newcastle such problems. He basically pulls the DM out of position. He pulls the DM into the defensive line, which opens up a beautiful pocket of space. So he pulls him back. You can see him now. He's going to run the DM into the back 4, which creates this area inside left, which is going to become vital. We can see Gakpo cuts inside, plays a pass to Fabinho. Now we can see Henderson. He's pulled the DM into the back line. Now it looks like more of a back 5 than a back 4. Nobody's dealing with the space. So Maximan's pointing. He's not doing anything about it, but he's pointing. Again, I think if Joelinton and Willock play, they could maybe deal with this situation a little bit better. But utilising this play, runners off the ball, very important. Creating space for his teammates. And then, of course, the other run off the ball from Cody Gakpo. Fantastic first-time ball with his left foot from the inside position. Again, something that Anthony would be very adept at doing. Lovely clip ball over the top for Cody Gakpo to run in behind the defence. Slots it home, 2-0 Liverpool. This is when Newcastle had their 10 men. And I think it's something Man United could really do. Spinning those 2 DMs, playing balls, rotating at most times. But in an instant, you could beat that pressure. You basically got a problem. You've got a 5v5, or if one of the fullbacks joins in, you create an extra body. And that's a real area where the game will be won and lost based on how Man United play out and how Newcastle react to it, and if United can beat the press. Simple as that. Football's simple sometimes. But yeah, that's kind of looking at it from a tactical perspective in there, which is cool. Colin, can't see Rashford playing as the top 4 is the bigger picture. Are you sure? This is a big game. Humongous game, Man United. I think Ten Hag's going to be looking at this. Bruno and Sancho double 10. That's the other thing, but then I don't know how you fit Anthony into the team. And I think Anthony, as you mentioned, for the final third, when you've pulled them back and you've done everything that I've said, you've pulled Bruno Guimaraes into the back line, Rashford's made a good run, Trippier's in there, Sabitzer's kind of carried through, Bruno's cut inside and played. That Anthony ball, the only player that can really play that pass is Anthony. The only left-footed attacker in the squad. I really feel like he's got to be the guy in there. But yeah, look, Erik Ten Hag knows. So, we don't need to consider that. Guys, remember, do of course, smash a like on this video, as the main man, Berber, FPS said. But that's what I think. I think profile-wise, I think United need to start Anthony. They need to start Marcel Sabitzer. It's all about playing and breaking the game down to basically, you're in a situation where you're attacking Newcastle's back 4 with 5 players. this is the moment that United need to be generating, 5-on-5 or a 7v5, depending on kind of where Manchester United go and transition. Would be really interesting. But yeah, guys, it's going to be a humongous game in the Premier League. Newcastle versus Manchester United. I'm so excited for this match. Misclick. I'm so excited for this match. Man United versus Newcastle. It's going to be an absolute popper. Guys, I think that's all the tactical thought I've got for this game. Any more stats? We'll have a look now. Nick Pope, big miss for the final. He's got as many clean sheets as David De Gea in all competitions with 16. Dubravka is not available for Newcastle. So Newcastle have got two options. Mark Gillespie or Loris Karius. Karius hasn't played a professional game of football since February 2021, and Gillespie hasn't played a professional game of football since September 2022. United need to get shots on goal early. United have won more games than any other team in Europe this season and have only lost one in their last 20 games in all competitions, the 3-2 defeat to Arsenal. And Newcastle have failed to win any of their last 3 games and only scored 2 goals. The last little thing we've got to look at is final experience. This is a big thing. Finals sometimes get the most of players. 7 of United's first team squad against Villarreal are still there, but you've also got final experience in Casemiro, who's won 14 out of his 16 finals. You've got Rafa Varane, that's won 16 out of his 20 finals. Lisandro Martinez, who's won 5 out of his 7, and Anthony, who's won 3 out of his 5. There's only 8 players in the Newcastle squad that have made it to finals, and someone with Casemiro's experience, I think, is going to be vitally important in this match, and I think that is the difference maker, is United's final experience. Guys, get your score prediction in right now. Matt Kay, Dalot or Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka could lock up Elens and Maximan. I'd go with Diogo Dalot. I think the possession is too important for this game. United need to play through, and Wan-Bissaka is an issue in that situation. Dave, Rashford's got an injury. Yeah, that is the reports. Let me see what the latest reports are for Rashford's injury in this match. Nothing. A late ankle injury, late fitness test is what we've got here, guys. It's going to go to the wire, that. Late fitness test for Marcus Rashford. I think he plays. Jonathan, I think I'd go Wan-Bissaka for his defensive strengths. Also, don't know why, but it feels like he works better in Erik ten Hag's system right now. I think possession-wise, you've got massive upgrades for, with Diogo Dalot in the team. Thoughts on Karius in goal? Shots, early, open it up, win the game, easy. I think Felix would be perfectly suited to us. Should have gone for him instead of Weghorst. Yeah, definitely think it should be the one in there. Get your score predictions in there, guys. Score predictions for the game. Newcastle, Manchester United, Wembley, League Cup final. We really miss Tony Marshall, to be honest. We should build him an Iron Man suit. I think Tony Marshall's time at Manchester United potentially will be over in the summer. You can't, miss such a pivotal season. Too many little injuries. Is that about how he looks after himself? I'm not too sure. But we will see, guys. We will see. Get your score predictions in. Not seen any in the chat yet. Come on. Score predictions. We've done all the analysis. All you need to do is put a score in. 5-5, 7-2, 2-0, 3-1. I think my score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 to Manchester United. It's written in the stars, I think, with big Erik ten Hag. We are flying at the moment, but it is about beating the press. It is about beating that midfield squeeze that Newcastle will put on. But yeah, good stuff today, guys. Really good stuff. I don't think there's anything that's gone on. News that we need to catch you up on. We are live every Friday at 12:30 on this channel, so make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you're liking the videos. But yeah, score predictions coming in. Radu's going to go 3-1 to United. Abby's going to go 4-0. Runaway Girl 2-1 United. Optimus is going to go 2-0 United. Jonathan 2-0 Newcastle. Looks haven't scored much in recent weeks. Cass is going to go 3-1 United. Chilling Arena is going to go 2-0 to Manchester United. Peddy's going to go 3-1. Optimus is going to go 2-0. Bruno and Sancho with the goals. Lovely, lovely stuff. Abdullah Ron's going to go 1-0 to Manchester United. I like it, guys. I do like it. A fellow nerd, going to go 2-0 United. Great score predictions as always. Thanks for everyone that stopped by today. We jumped up to 400 people at one point here. Much love. Big GGs. Can't wait for Sunday. I'm so happy right now. It's crazy what a good football team can do to you. And Radu in the chat, I am really happy. We've just seen a performance where Rashi was a bit off, and we won. Radu, I'm absolutely on with that, my friend, as well. That's going to be good. It's going to be so much fun. Casa experience. Varane, Martinez. These are big players. Players that are made for these moments. Big GGs to everyone. Much love. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Much love. Back for the Premier League review on Monday at lunchtime. We'll see you later.